I am at the Shanklin Chine, which is a nighttime light-up garden. I've been wanting to go to it for a while, but I kept hitting the Isle of Wight off-season, so this is my first chance. Let's check it out. Shanklin Chine is the island's oldest visitor attraction, with its doors first opening in 1817. You go on a journey through a tree-lined gorge to the main feature, which is a waterfall that stands a whopping 45 feet high. Tickets cost $12.95 for adults, and that actually allows you to return within 7 days, which is great because then you get to experience the daytime version as well as the nighttime version. Only being here for a few days, we only came once, but we did manage to hit the right time, so we got some daylight hours, and then we also caught the lights coming on at dusk until close. I think you can adopt me now, adopt a dinosaur. We came on the 19th of April, so we did actually have some live entertainment, totally by luck, as we didn't look at the timetable in advance. And there was a really fun performance of a guy that sang quite a lot of Lionel Richie songs. I obviously can't share it for copyright reasons, but it definitely added to the experience. They also have some dinosaurs and dinosaur eggs dotted around the trail. When you walk in, they have this cafe which has some absolutely stunning views over the gorge. I think if I was here for a week or so, I'd probably come back just to sit here and have a nice drink, but we were a bit coffeeed up at this point, so we just wanted to get to exploring the gorge. So the only negative I will say about this place was I think it's simply not open late enough at this time of year, because the illuminations never really get strong enough until just before closing time, when you're being herded out really quickly and you can't really enjoy them. Chine is a local word from Saxon origin and now is only used on the Isle of Wight and in Dorset. It means a deep, narrow ravine formed by water cutting through soft sandstone, leading to the sea. The Shanklin Chine is the result of 10,000 years of formation. The Isle of Wight actually has 21 chines, with Shanklin Chine being the largest. Chines are fascinating features of this island's landscape, each one having its own unique character, from the vertical canyon-like walls of Whale Chine to the leafy ravine that is Shanklin Chine. They are also great windows into parts of history, as their steep walls erode so regularly that the rocks are easily visible. This often throws up evidence of dinosaurs, swampy deltas, and ancient civilizations. Actually, you're not allowed to touch. Back in the 18th century, the Chine was a rough walk, without its modernised walkways and steps that you see today. However, the few that made it as far as the waterfall were all deeply impressed by its beauty and grandeur. Several artists and authors wrote about the Chine, including Jane Austen, who wrote, "We hired a sociable and drove round Shanklin Chine, lovely." Keats too also found inspiration for some of his greatest poetry while staying in Shanklin in 1819. He referred to it as the wondrous Chine. Here is a very great lion. I wish I had as many guineas as there have been spyglasses in it. Several Victorian literary figures and artists found inspiration in the Shanklin Chine. They included George Eliot, Macaulay, Dickens and Longfellow, as well as artists Thomas Rowlandson and Samuel Howitt. The Chine was also a favourite for smugglers, who had a tunnel that led from the Chine Inn into the old village. Smuggling was so prevalent that excise officers were based in the old village until the watch house near the Chine was built in 1820. In 1817, a man named William Colnut excavated the present path and opened it to the public. The original fee isn't known, however, by 1873 visitors would pay 6d, which today is the equivalent of about 2.5 pence. Amazingly, that price didn't increase until 1958. The Shanklin Chine had a huge boost in popularity with the arrival of Queen Victoria and Prince Albert at Osborne, which is in East Cowes. Shanklin became a fashionable watering hole, which was frequented by European royalty. The Shanklin Chine became a must-see on every Victorian itinerary, and contemporary descriptions at the time used phrases such as terrifically sublime and savagely grand to describe the Chine. We are now approaching the waterfall, which is the Isle of Wight's tallest waterfall, standing at 45 feet. There's also this secondary waterfall here, which is 29 feet. There was a very quirky little wishing well here. Watch where you put the coin. In this tiny little tube. So I did make a wish. It hasn't come true yet, but hopefully it will soon. We then made our way to the other side of the Chine, which is called Pluto's Point, where you get a fantastic view over the coastline. And you can also see the original Pluto pipeline as well. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Also, as you can see, the illuminations are starting to show up a little bit more at this time of night. Here you can see an actual section of the Pluto pipeline that was used in Shanklin. The pipeline was one of the great successes of World War II. Pluto, which stands for Pipeline Under the Ocean, was the idea of Lord Mountbatten, who was Britain's Chief of Combined Operations. So these oil pipelines were built under the English Channel and supported Operation Overlord, which was the Allied invasion of Normandy during the Second World War. These pipelines reduced the need for coastal tankers, which were often vulnerable to not only bad weather but air attack. The oil also would have to be offloaded into storage tanks on the shore, which were also vulnerable to strikes. So here it's getting close to closing time, and just to make you aware that they do start to move you out at about 1:45, so you don't actually get till 9 p.m. So just in case you're arriving really late, bear that in mind. We had just enough time to have a little look over the view at Pluto Point, and I couldn't believe how the water and the sky just blended so seamlessly. I was pretty amazed by this. On the way out, we found these stocks and had a bit of fun locking ourselves in here before we got really chased off the venue for overstaying. On the way out, you'll see the Fisherman's Cottage, which is one of the longest established pubs on the south of the island and has been trading since the early 1800s.